of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a basic Krishna Conscious 101 class. Not going to be anything too sophisticated, too difficult to understand, but just basically about incarnations and the basic categories of different incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because you all heard about incarnations or avatars before. Avatar basically means someone who comes down. The word avatar is composed of two parts, ava and tara. Ava means down, tara means to cross. So, crossing down. Most of us are trying to cross up. Some people are also going down, but are not necessarily avatars. So, with that in mind, let's chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunna Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunna Bihari Gopi Janabalabha Giribadadhaguti Gopi Janabalabha Giribadadhaguti Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachagute Yamuna Tira Vanachagute Jaya Radhu Madhava Kunna Bihari Jaya Radhu Madhava Kunna Bihari Gopi Janabalabha Giribadadhaguti Gopi Janabalabha Giribadadhaguti Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachagute Yamuna Tera Manachauti Jayo Radhu Madhuva Kunjabihagati Jayo Radhu Madhuva Kunjabihagati Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya, also Teta Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami. My Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Ko Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radkunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturanam Ki Jai, Jagadada Sami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasa Devi Ki Jai, Sama Veda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is Guru Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Budale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Chinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurmani Pachani Nivasesha Sunyavadi Paschatati Shatani. So, oh my God, Timananda Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshunam Meditam Yena Tuzmai Shigadavay Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So again, we'd like to welcome everybody to New Goloka for the Sunday program. And this evening's topic is incarnations. But before we talk about incarnations, obviously, there's a secondary topic here. So if you have incarnations or avatars, to be more precise, then they're coming down to this world, right? So then we have to describe what is this world? And also, why would an incarnation, or why would Krishna in his various forms come down to this world? Oh my God. If any of you have not figured out or have not read the Bhagavad Gita, this world is described as Dukkalayam Ashashvatam. It's temporary and miserable. And you get them, I'm not going to go over the miseries. Oh my God, I can give a whole class about miseries. Don't tell me about it. Adhyatmik, adhibodhik, adhidaivik miseries, miseries from the body and mind, miseries from living entities, miseries from the material energy, etc., etc., etc. So, why would the Lord decide to come down to this place? Because he's in the spiritual world, isn't it? as described in the spiritual world. Lakshmi Sahasrasata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, right? He has all these Lakshmis taking care of him. I do not see too many Lakshmis in this room. Sorry about that, ladies. Isn't it? All these Lakshmis, goddesses of fortune, Srimati Radharani. And here we got Janram Richu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshana Darshanam. Of course, Krishna is never subject to these things. Well, the reason, first of all, what is the material world? The material world is a place to give us an opportunity to what? To revive our original spiritual nature. Because we are originally Krishna conscious. Krishna, see that verse? Krishna Prema, yeah. Krishna Prema, Saja Koranoi, Shravanari Shuddhachitte, Kora Idoi, as described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nityasiddha Krishna Prema. That we are pure lovers of Krishna. But somehow or other, we have been covered up somehow or other. We're not going to get into that somehow or other, because that's a controversial subject matter. But somehow or other, we've forgotten our nature. We're in an amnesic situation, right? We've forgotten. So the material world is a place to help us remember. It's like if someone goes to a mental institution and they've forgotten who they are, or they may think that they're something that they're not. There's actually people in mental institutions who think that they are, or he or she is, Napoleon, or Joan of Arc, if you don't know who these people are. And some people even think that they're Krishna in mental institutions. Pretty good, isn't it? I'm God. Or in the Christian world, I'm Jesus Christ. So people think like that. So mental institution is to bring people back to their correct understanding of who they are. Of course, there's other mental diseases or psychological diseases which we're not mentioning right now. But basically, that's one of them. And so once you bring people back to the situation or to the understanding of whom they are, then they can be let out of the mental institution. Isn't it, once someone is normal, why stay in the mental institution unless you become a doctor? Because that's another thing. So that's the material world. It is a mental institution for people who have all these upadis. What is an upadi? Upadi is a designation. Thinking that I'm something and I'm not. Again, let me give an example of an upadi that I'm referring to. If I think that I am this body, if I think I'm American, if I think I'm whatever, white or black or whatever, that's an upadi. Upadi is a designation that is not a permanent aspect of the identity of the person. And of course, Krishna consciousness, sarvupadi vinir muktam tatvatrena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakta ruchate, is meant to get rid of these upadis by having us understand what is our real nature. What is our real nature? Jivera Swarupa Hoy Nitya Krishna Das, or Gopi Varta Padakamala. Dasa Dasa Dasanu Das. For those who don't understand, that means that I'm eternal servant of Krishna, or a servant of a servant of a servant of a servant of Krishna, who maintains the gopis in Vrindavan, Gopi Bharta, Padakamala, Dasha Dasha, Dasanu Dasha. So that's really the purpose of the material world. So in order for that purpose to be fulfilled, well, you got to have a material world. And in order to have a material world, there's one type of incarnation that's required. And we're going to talk about different varieties of incarnations. And if you're interested in reading more about incarnations, they're mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a book by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, published by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, which we sell copies of. Of course, Aditya Narayan Prabhu is not here to sell copies, but I'm sure someone else can do that. And it's also mentioned in a shorter book that Srila Prabhupada published called The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. There's a list of the incarnations. So, first type of incarnation we're going to talk about is the incarnations that deal with creating the material world. These incarnations, the technical name, is called what? Purusha avatar. Purusha. And there's 3 of these types of avatars. And we'll go through them briefly for those of you who don't know. There's the Maha Vishnu, the Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and the Shiradakshay Vishnu. So oftentimes people ask, how does God, or how did God create this material world? Well, he does it in a very interesting way. You know, he doesn't go down to the shop and start hammering the nails and things like that, or go down to the chemistry laboratory and add 2 parts of this, 3 parts of that, and all of a sudden everything fizzes up, and then you got the material world. He creates an interesting way. He could create it anyway. The interesting thing about God, Krishna, Lord Vishnu, is that he's aptakama. What does aptakama means? He gets whatever he wants, and he's swarat. He's independent. So, in other words, he is not forced to create the material world in a particular way, but when he does it in such a way that it's very, very interesting. You know, in the Christian literature, of course, you have God who really struggles to create the material world. You know, 6 days, he just like struggles and struggles and struggles. And he gets so exhausted that on the 7th day, time to take a nap. That is not an accurate depiction of God. The accurate depiction of God is that he actually never gets tired, and he basically doesn't have to do anything. Everything is accomplished by his will. But when he does things in an interesting way. So what is the interesting way the Purusha avatars create this world? Well, the first one, Mahavishnu, he just goes to sleep. Interesting, isn't it? I mean, when I sleep, I don't create anything. It's just, you know, most of us asleep. It's just ignorance. Nothing happens. But when God sleeps, he breathes out, and it's not just some, you know, air coming out of his mouth or sweat coming from his pores. It's all the universes come out from him. Wow, what an interesting thing he does, isn't it? So in other words, not only is he creating the material world for our benefit, but he's enjoying doing it. This is Leela. Like all of the Lord's incarnations, even though there's a specific category called Leela avatars, they're all Leela. In other words, they're all done for his enjoyment. Because Krishna, as I mentioned before, he's aptakama. What does that mean? He gets what he wants without asking anyone for it. Because Krishna's energies, Parasya Shakti Vivadaiva Shute Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriya Cha. Krishna's energies are all first-class servants. What's a first-class servant? That person or thing or whatever that does what you want without being asked. Wouldn't that be nice? One day, you know, I'll have first-class servants, I hope. But right now, disciples, yep, pretty please. I'll give you some money. Can you do it? But first class, just joking. But first class servant means when you ask, even just thinking about it, wow, you've done it. And all of Krishna's energies are first class servants. So he just desires the material world to be created. It's created. So he doesn't have to do anything, in other words. So everything he does is for his enjoyment. So anyway, so getting back to the Mahavishnu. He rests, breathes out, all the universes come out in the little seed forms, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, expanding like soap bubbles. They come out. And then what he decides, this is all happening while he's sleeping. Breathing out. Don't wait for him to breathe in, because you'll be in trouble. Because when he breathes in, everything gets destroyed. So we're on his out breath right now, thank God. Now you should become Krishna conscious before he decides to breathe in again. So anyway, the universes come out, all these little millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions, quintillions, whatever. 10 to the 500th millionth, whatever, power. And he enters into each and every one of them as the Garbo Dakshai Vishnu. And this like I said, it's so interesting the way he does things. You may think, how can that God do these things? Well, he can do anything he wants. Any way he wants. Because he has full power, full independence. So what he does, he goes into each universe, and then he also creates from his body the Garbodak ocean. And he's resting there. And he has this nice bed of snakes. I mean, it's really interesting. That's called Seshanag. Think about it for a second. Why should he do things in an ordinary way? He'll just go down to the bed store in a Walmart and buy a bed. What, memory foam? Memory foam bed with a pillow. So he has an expansion, another expansion, Anantashesh. Actually, Anantashesh is considered another type of avatar called a direct Shaktavesh. But anyway, we're not going to get into these tiny categories right now. So he lies down on Anantashesh, and he decides to give birth. But he doesn't wait for Lakshmi. So he gives birth to Lord Brahma, who does all the hard work. Maybe it's Lord Brahma that rests on the seventh day. I don't know. I never asked him. So Lord Brahma has many different microprocessors, heads. And he is, it sounds amazing, doesn't it, if you think about it? But it's true. It's true. It's more amazing than the most amazing science fiction or, movie you've ever seen, Wow. So Lord Brahma does all the work of arranging. Anyway, he gives birth to Lord Brahma from his navel. There's actually a lotus flower that goes from his navel, and Lord Brahma is there. And then he enters, wow, there's so much information about these Purusha avatars. And then he enters into every atom as the Shiro Dakshai Vishnu. And he also has a certain place in the shore of the ocean of milk in every universe. And he's giving everybody intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness, mataksmritir, jnanam, aponam cha, according to their desire. That's all of us. So those are the Purusha avatars. Actually, I left out one point about Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu has a very interesting glance. When he looks at the material creation, I guess he's resting, but he opens his eyes for a second. That glance is called what? Does anyone know? Shambhu. And that's how he puts all of us in this material creation. Because previously, we were all, at least most of us, who are not Shaktavesh avatars, which I think is most people in this room. That's another type of avatar. Most of us were within his body And he implants us through his glance because Anganiya Sha Shakalen Driya Dri Timanti Pashanti Panti Paliyanti Chiram Jaganti. Right? Through his glance, he's able to impregnate and put the living entities in the material world. And that glance is known as Shambhu, who consorts with the material energy. Therefore, when you have Shiva Linga, you have the Yoni and the Linga. And Lord Shiva is basically the father of all of us in the material world. Very, very interesting. Of course, Lord Shiva has other appearances too, such as the Ruja incarnations, but that's a different story. So that's the Purusha avatars. And then to regulate things, we covered one type of avatar so far, then to regulate everything in the material world, because everything has to function under certain energies. And these energies are called gunas. There's 3 gunas. Guna means rope, basically. And 3 gunas are goodness, passion, and ignorance. Rajas, sattva, and tamas. So these 3 gunas are like ropes that control everybody. So therefore the Lord has different guna avatars that actually control these different ropes that control everybody in the material world. And who are the guna avatars? Of course, some of them are God, and some of them are not God. One of them is God. That is the guna avatar of the mode of goodness. Who's that? Anyone know? You should know that. Who's the guna avatar of the mode of goodness? Vishnu! And who is the guna avatar in the mode of passion? What? No. Lord Brahma. Because he's creating everything. So passion means to create. In goodness, you're just like, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Like Krishna says, if you really want Shanti, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suradam Sarvabhutanam Gyatwamam Shantim Richati, 529 Gita. That to understand Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the enjoyer of every sacrifice, he's the enjoyer of everything in this world. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, he's the Lord of all the worlds. Suidam Sarvabhutanam, he's your real friend. And this way, Gyatwam Mam Shantim Richati, then you can actually be peaceful. So, anyway, so that's the mode of goodness. But then passion means, I want this, I want that, I got to build this, build a house, buy a car, go into debt, get a mortgage. I think you all know about this. Actually, building temples is not included under passion. Don't worry. But if you do it passionately, that's called niyam agraha, over endeavor. You should do it in the mode of goodness. So, anyway, so the mode of passion is Lord Brahma, and the mode of ignorance, it's not that Shiva is in the mode of ignorance. He controls the mode of ignorance. Of course, he's known as Ashutosh, easily angered and easily pleased. And his business is destroying everything at the end of this cosmic creation, and also manifesting as anger. When you get angry, that's a manifestation of Lord Shiva. Now, don't blame Lord Shiva for your anger. Some devotees do that. They say, Lord Shiva made me do it. He's in charge, but you have the ability to choose the mode of nature that you want to associate with. And of course, Karnam Guna Sangasha Sadasad Janma Jonishu, Krishna says in the Gita, that our entanglement is due to our association with various modes of nature. Interesting. So those are the guna avatars. And then also to help regulate the material world, some of these avatars are for regulating the material worlds. There's another type of avatar called the Man Manvantara avatar. Manvantara means the Manus. And there's 14 Manus in each day of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma lives for a long time, 365 days a year. I guess he has his leap year also, maybe. And then 100 years he lives for. So there's many, many Manus. And so these Manus regulate, they're also the father of mankind. And so they regulate not only human society, but regulate things going on in this material world. So that's a Manvantara avatar. Now notice, some of these avatars are not God in a real sense, but they are empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's a difference. So we respect them because they're representatives of the Supreme Personality of God, or representatives of the Lord's potencies or powers. So, next type of avatar, and we're going to get more spirituals. Well, of course, they're all spiritual. Sorry about this. But we're going to get more towards Krishna consciousness. Sorry. So, the next type of avatar is called the Yuga avatar. What's a Yuga avatar? Yuga avatar means we have different yugas. Now, for those of you who don't know, haven't figured it out by now, this is Kali Yuga. Does anyone have any doubts about it? Raise your hand if you're doubting this is Kali, if you think this is Satya Yuga. Manda samanda matayo manda bhagya upadruta. People are unfortunate, short-lived, they're cheating each other. The leaders of, the political leaders of society are, at least in America, challenged, because I don't want to get in trouble or get arrested after I leave class. So there's problems. People short-lived, little memory, lifespan, everything is problematic in Kali Yuga. And then at the end of Kali Yuga, everyone's going to be as short as a little dwarf, living underground, eating human flesh. There won't be vegetables. There won't be fruits. It'll be very problematic. Actually, that was the first thing I was told when I walked into a Hare Krishna temple. Watch out for Kali Yuga. You better join and cut your hair right away before it happens to you. And then I ran away for a little while. So that's Kali Yuga. And in Kali Yuga, the principles of religiosity, of course there's 4 principles of religiosity: cleanliness, mercifulness, truthfulness, and austerity. And the beginning of, at the beginning, 3 of them were gone. The cleanliness, mercifulness, and austerity. And in the beginning, there was some truthfulness. But guess what? It's really going fast, right? No? Yes? You agree? Yeah, it's going fast. I mean, anyway, you don't know who to believe nowadays. Anyway, we won't get into details because I could get in trouble. So, it's Kali Yuga. But then there's 3 other yugas. There's Satya, there's Treta, and Dwapara. And there's incarnations for each and every age. And in each and every age, there are incarnations that teach the Yuga Dharma. Yuga Dharma means the practice of religion for a particular age. First age, Satya Yuga, is meditation. People could sit for hundreds of years, long period of time, and just meditate. What would they meditate on? Krishna in the heart. They wouldn't meditate on a candle or on their navel. Hopefully not. Before I joined the movement, I was meditating on candles and navels. But anyway, that's another story. Because we had an impersonal understanding of what meditation was. People ask all the time, do you meditate? Do you meditate? And I say, yeah, we meditate on Krishna. And so that's not what I meant. Do you meditate? So for me, meditation means you have to meditate on something, right? Just meditate, make the mind blank. But they think, make the mind blank, right? And as soon as you make the mind blank, you think it's great, I've made the mind blank. But then your mind is no longer blank because you're actually you're very happy that you made the mind blank. So real meditation means to meditate on Krishna. So that's Satya Yuga, and then you get to the Treta Yuga. Then it's opulent sacrifices, right? Big sacrifices, a lot of gold. And then Dwapara Yuga, it's big temple worship. And of course, we do sacrifices in Krishna consciousness, we do temple worship, and we do meditation. But the primary process that we do is the Kali Yuga process. It's a Kali Kalera Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtana. Kaler Doshanate Rajan Ashyayuko Mahadgunat Kirtananeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramvajet. That if people have intelligence in Kali Yuga, which is an ocean quarrel, then they will perform the Sankirtan Yaga, and the Sankirtan Yaga is Krishna Varna Trisa Krishna Sango Pangas Shaparshanam Yagyahi Sankirtanai Pray Yajanti Sumedasa. Ones who have intelligence, they do this thing. And Krishna Varna Twisha Krishna. Krishna, the Yuga avatar in Kali Yuga, is, for us, is who? This should be easy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's easy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Yuga avatar. So we are very fortunate. And he is teaching us the Yuga Dharma. So there's the Yuga avatars. And then another type of avatar is called the Leela avatar. So in one sense, all of Krishna's Vishnu Tattva avatars are Leela in the sense that they're doing it for their enjoyment. Like when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes down, we understand he comes down to teach what? The Yuga Dharma, right? We mentioned he's the Yuga avatar. But also, he's coming down to enjoy Leela. Leela means play. It means he's coming to have a particular experience of ras. Ras means a taste, and bhav, an emotional experience. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes down to this world in Kali Yuga, and he comes down to taste devotional service from his devotee's perspective. Like we say that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi. And he's tasting devotional service from his devotee's perspective and worshiping Krishna from his devotees, actually Srimati Radharani's perspective. So there's also some Leela there. So even when you're talking about Yuga avatars, then it's Leela at the same time. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. There's always Leela mixed. But there's primary not devotees, but incarnations listed as Leela avatars. And some of them are like Lord Ramchandra is listed as a Leela avatar. I have a whole list here. There's Matsya, the fish incarnation. Such an interesting way of saving the Vedas, isn't it? Becoming a fish. And then there's Kurma, such an interesting way of assisting the churning of the milk ocean. There's Baraha, such an interesting way of saving the earth planet. Such an interesting God we have, isn't it? He's not just sitting there on a throne judging everybody, sending everybody to heaven or hell. That'd be kind of boring, isn't it? What does God do for a living? Well, he goes to the court. Anyway, here comes, okay, there's this statement, here comes the judge. I mean, that's God. So anyway, so in the Shringa, Vamana, and Lord Ramachandra. Interesting, isn't it? These are all Leela, considered to be Leela avatars. And the final type of avatar, which I found very interesting, this is actually what I wanted to make the main topic today of, is called the Shakta Vesha avatar. Shakta Vesha avatar means that there are persons who may not be Vishnu Tattva, who are Jiva Tattva. What is a Jiva Tattva? Jiva Tattva means a soul of the same category as you or me. Jiva, as Krishna describes, Mami Vangsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, part and parcel of Krishna. But these Jiva souls generally, because there are some Vishnu Tattva Shaktavesha avatars, and these Vishnu Tattva Shaktavesha avatars are called direct Shaktavesha avatars. But primarily I want to talk about indirect, what's described as indirect Shakta avatars. Indirect Shakta avatars means the avatars who are empowered by Krishna in a certain way to carry out a specific function. And I'm going to mention some of them and describe them. Of course, in different religions, Srila Prabhupada even considered Lord Jesus Christ to be a Shaktavesh avatar. Because many of these Shaktavesh avatars, or preachers who are empowered by the Lord in specific ways, preach according to time, place, and circumstance. Now in India, we are very fortunate to have Sanatana Dharma. What is Sanatana Dharma? Sanatana Dharma means eternal principles that apply in every single circumstance. That's very important. In other words, things like I'm the soul, not the body. There's reincarnation, different things like that. But sometimes these Shaktavesh avatars, people who are empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, come to teach sub-religious principles. What do sub-religious principles means? Things like be nice, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't, what else? Covet thy neighbor's property. You know, so these are sub-religious principles. This is not actually Sanatana Dharma, but they're necessary. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, you don't find sub-religious principles. Krishna is not telling Arjuna, be nice to your mother. Honor your father and mother. Actually, Arjuna was honoring his family members too much. He didn't want to fight them. So Krishna doesn't teach sub-religious principles in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is teaching Sanatana Dharma. You know, Sarva Dharmam Prichajamamikam Shatanam Brajaham Dwam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayashami Masucha. This is eternal religious. This is Sanatana Dharma. But many Shaktavesh avatars come down to teach according to time, place, and circumstance. That's why you have things like the Ten Commandments, which are good. We don't say disobey the Ten Commandments, but they're necessary, they're foundational in order to become a human being. Thou shalt not kill. Like one of the main things Prabhupada mentioned when he was talking to people of different religions was the commandment, thou shalt not kill. Prabhupada said, Lord Jesus said, or the Bible said, thou shalt not kill. Why are you killing? And of course, they have so many excuses. Well, I'm not killing. I mean, I'm not murdering. You know, whatever. You know, they make so many excuses up about this. So, anyway, so those are sub-religious principles. But some of the Shaktavesh avatars, like Lord Jesus, teach sub-religious principles, and some of them teach actual eternal religious principles. And some of the ones who taught eternal religious principles, for example, there you have the four Kumaras who teach about Krishna consciousness. You have Prithu Maharaj, who was empowered not so much as a preacher, but he was empowered to rule a kingdom in a Krishna conscious way. So Shaktivesh avatars are not necessarily empowered just to be preachers of Krishna consciousness. They may be empowered to carry out other functions, like Parashuram. Like his function was basically wiping all the Kshatriyas out at a particular time. And then you have Narada, who was actually empowered to preach Krishna consciousness. So how do we know? The question is, I'm going to mention one more, which is my favorite. You could probably guess. But anyway, how can we understand someone is a Shaktivesh avatar? Because I may just come out tomorrow and say I'm a Shaktivesh avatar. I won't do that. I may put my peacock feather on my head and play my flute, which I can't play. So how can you determine it? Because you have not only people who say that they're Shaktivesh avatars, but you have people who basically say that they're fully God and they're Krishna. And they do some mystical tricks, magical tricks or something like that. And, they must be God. So how do you determine? Let's talk about Shaktivesh avatars. How do you determine someone's a Shaktivesh avatar? Well, there's shastrik means in the scriptures, descriptions. There's understanding of someone's mission, whether they've been predicted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's many, many different symptoms like this by which you can determine whether someone is a Shaktivesh avatar. And of course, I just want to mention my favorite Shaktivesh avatar. Who do you think that is? Yeah, Srila Prabhupada. I think you guessed it. So, the symptoms are there. First of all, Prabhupada said there's many symptoms of pure devotees or acharyas that are born in a certain way. They're worshiping Krishna from their very birth, like Prabhupada was, worshiping Radha Govinda in the temple. And or we have Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, whose parents prayed for a ray of Vishnu, and then he appeared at Jagannath Puri. So many symptoms are there. And then we have Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who spread Krishna consciousness all over India, and Srila Prabhupada, who spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And Srila Prabhupada was predicted by Lord Nityananda himself, who said that there will be a Senapati, that means a conquering general, who go all over the world and get everyone to chant the holy name and spread Krishna consciousness. So that is Srila Prabhupada's position. So Srila Prabhupada has the position of Shaktivesh avatar, in other words, someone who is sent down by Krishna to preach Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada, of course, left this world in 1977. So what do we do now that Srila Prabhupada has left this world? The Shaktivesh avatar has physically left the world. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes a very interesting statement. He Rizanzil who says that Vaishnavas die. So in other words, while they are present still in Zan, I'm paraphrasing, the Vaishnavas, such as Srila Prabhupada, the Shaktivesh avatars, just like Krishna, is still present in the Bhagavad Gita. You can read the Bhagavad Gita, over 5,000 years ago it was spoken, and you can connect with Krishna. And then here's another avatar you can connect with, Krishna's holy name, which is not generally in the whole list of avatars. It's called the Nama avatar. So through sound vibration, one can connect with His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Because Srila Prabhupada has appeared in this world as the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to create, what? A revolution in the misdirected lives of an impious civilization. Tadvad Visarga Janataka Vipupo Yasmin Pratishlokam Padadvatyapi Namanan Tashi Yasho Nikataniyat Shinvanti Gayanti Grenanti Yat Sadavaha. which Srila Prabhupada was very fond of quoting this particular Bhagavatam verse, that these words referring to the transcendental vibration coming from the lips of a pure devotee are capable of creating a revolution in the impious lives or impious civilization. So, therefore, we can all take shelter of that particular avatar of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not Vishnu Tattva, he's Jiva Tattva, but he's been empowered by the Lord. How can we take shelter? You may not be able to you won't be able to take initiation from him because he's left this world, but that's all right. Because the primary connection in our sampradaya is something called shiksha. You know, sometimes people question, oh, we have all these gurus in ISKCON, and how can we understand if someone is actually, on the topmost platform of devotional service? How can I get Krishna Prem? Do they have Krishna Prem? Let me ask you, Maharaj, do you have Krishna Prem? Are you seeing Krishna at every moment? Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena chantakshadaiva hridesh vilokyanti. And actually, even if someone was seeing Krishna every moment, he wouldn't say, yeah, right on. He would say, no, I'm just a humble servant of my spiritual master. So we have an interesting situation in ISKCON, because some people, they say, well, I think I can take initiation from Prabhupada, but you can't. Because to take initiation, the guru has to say, I accept you. And if the guru doesn't say, I accept you, or remains quiet, you can't be initiated. I mean, it's like marriage, because I don't want to compare it to a marriage. Like, they both have to say, do you accept so-and-so John to be your husband? No. Up. The marriages I used to go to, they used to say, if anyone has any objections, please let them speak now or forever hold your peace. But they both have to agree. Isn't it? You can't have it. Well, I'm representing John. So even though John doesn't know that he's getting married to you, I agree on his behalf that he can marry you. So, basically, but initiation is not as important as Shiksha. We are a Shiksha Sampradaya. And you can all connect with His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada should be our primary source of information. The primary Shraddha, faith, can be reposed. This is the essence of the Krishna consciousness movement. There's no need to invent another philosophy to connect with Prabhupada. The actual point is to hear from Prabhupada, to accept his words, to serve his mission. And then you're very much connected. I am not any more fortunate, because I was directly initiated by Prabhupada, than anyone here in this room. In fact, you may be more fortunate, because Prabhupada said the Grand Spiritual Master is actually more compassionate than the actual Spiritual Master. And I'm sure my disciples will attest to that fact. So Prabhupada, we can connect to him. He's the Shaktavesh avatar, and we can go back to Godhead just by connecting to him and following his instructions. And one of his instructions, of course, means to take initiation, but initiation is secondary. Shiksha, hearing, is primary. Try to remember that. Okay, so, oh my God, 6 o'clock already. So anyone have any questions or comments about these points? Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's very special because Lord Chaitanya came, and during a brief period, which we're in right now, which I hope manifests itself pretty quickly, because every time I read the news, I start to get very nervous. So during this brief period, there'll be a special dispensation for a lot of people, but not that everybody at the end of Kali Yuga, because well, everyone at the end of Kali Yuga, when you go to the very end, there's the Kalki avatar. Sorry about that. And anyone who isn't Krishna conscious sort of gets, what do they say, the sword, the knife, argumentum ad vaculum. Anyone know that statement, what that means? Argumentum ad vaculum. Anybody experts here in language? Argumentum ad vaculum means that if you don't listen to someone, you get the stick. It's called, actually in Sanskrit, that's called shastra. You understand? There's two words, shastra and shastra. Shastra means where? The book. This is shastra. Shastra means, but anyone who gets killed by Kalki gets liberated, but not back to Godhead. You get liberated. So in one sense, everybody at the end of Kali Yuga gets liberated in that way. But as far as going back to Godhead, one has to accept the Yuga Dharma. And many people decide not to do that. And that's why you have all these people running around eating each other at the end of Kali Yuga before they're killed by the Kalki avatar. Good question. Thank you. So, other questions or comments? Yes? That's right. Is that what? Even more compassionate. You get, like in my own life, well, Prabhupada is my initiating spiritual master and Shiksha Guru. I actually feel so much compassion from Bhaktivinoda Thakur and, of course, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Gorkashore, and the rest of the disciplic succession, and Narada Muni, and even Hanuman. I feel a lot of compassion from Hanuman. So, yeah, when you connect, you get everybody there. When you connect with the disciplic succession, you get a whole team there you can connect with. It is so wonderful. You know, recently I've been reading this beautiful book, nice, wonderful book by Sadananda, who is Prabhupada's godbrother, detailing the biography from an academic standpoint of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. And I feel so connected with them because of the mercy of Prabhupada. And, you know, I appreciate more and more these great personalities. And also it's a very humbling experience to read about these great personalities and realize, oh my God, they've written so many books, they're so educated, they're great preachers, and look at me. You know, I can hardly pronounce Sanskrit. And, you know, we can understand how great an opportunity we have by connecting with the Sampradaya, with the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Wow. It's so fortunate. Every day we should be thanking Krishna for the fortune that we have. And so, anyway. So I think we'll, and now, oh yes, we have a question. There's innumerable incarnations. How do I reconcile it with what? Well, we only know about a few incarnations. Prabhupada says there's many incarnations as waves in the ocean. In other words, unlimited. Prabhupada said that Krishna has incarnations in every species of life. Oh my God. Just like this morning, I was walking, chanting my japa, and I saw a deer. I said, maybe that's Krishna's deer incarnation. And, you know, we have one devotee, he gets upset at deer because they eat his flowers. So maybe he's getting upset with Krishna. So anyway, joking about that. Yeah, there's nothing to reconcile. It's just there's unlimited Leela avatars. Of course, with Purusha avatars, is only 3. With good avatars, only 3. Shaktivesh avatars, unlimited. Leela avatars, unlimited. Unlimited. So, sorry if I gave the impression that they're limited numbers like that. So, I think on that happy note, thank you all for coming. And there'll be prasadam now downstairs in the hall. Thank you again. All glories to His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada.